to you. I hope you're doing well this morning. I want to talk to you about a very important subject that we all have in common, and that subject is time. Time is truly an interesting subject. How time and how the routine processes of life intermingle is extremely interesting. For instance, I didn't know this, but on average, the heart pumps 377 liters of blood around your body every 60 seconds. And it beats more than 100,000 times per day, so that by the time you turn 70, your heart will have beat 2.5 billion times. If a person sleeps for an average, and we all love our sleep, if a person sleeps on an average of 8 hours per night, they'll spend approximately 229,961 hours sleeping in their lifetime, which amounts to about 1/3 of their lives. I'll admit to you, there are some scientific aspects of time that I sincerely cannot wrap my mind around, because according to fascinate.com, the faster you move, the slower time goes. According to the laws of physics, you will actually age more slowly if you travel extremely fast. If you were to fly, for instance, at 99% the speed of light into the star Sirius, you would have aged less than 2.5 years on your arrival. But the people on Earth would have aged more than 17 years. So if we can figure out how to do this, we have finally found the anti-aging secret. Einstein's theory of relativity, I'm not smart enough for these things, but it states that the closer one is to the Earth, the slower time actually goes. A year goes by 15 microseconds faster at the top of Mount Everest than it does at sea level. Now, I have no idea how any of this is possible. That part of time is far too complex for me, but I can understand the truth of the great American novelist Nathaniel Hawthorne when he said, "Time flies over us, but leaves its shadow behind." Because time is that item of our life that we all know is constantly slipping away. How many times have we heard some semblance of time is precious, so don't waste it? We know time is truly a use it or lose it quantity. Indeed, a little over a month ago, every person within the states that participate in daylight saving times, we experienced this very thing. We sprang forward an hour and literally lost some time. Guess the good news is this: we'll get it back in the fall. We waste time, we lose time, we even lose track of time. So there's just another reminder that there are 31,556,926 seconds in your year. And how you spend them absolutely matters. No matter your age, your income level, your bloodline, human beings can only function in one time frame at a time. We have to invest our now very wisely. In his book, It's About Time, Leslie Flynn has a piece that he entitled, "If You Are 35, You Have 500 Days to Live." And his premise is that when you subtract the time spent on sleeping and working and tending to personal matters and hygiene, please pay attention to time with hygiene, odd chores, medical matters, eating, traveling, and other time stealers, that in the next 35 years you will have the equivalent of only about 500 days to spend as you wish. So with this in mind, I think it's important to consider a powerful point that a minister friend of mine once shared with me that's always stuck with me. The New Testament has two words for our English word time, and those New Testament words are chronos, which simply means time governed by the clock, and kairos, which means time measured by special moments. Now, we would describe these two different words for time simply as quantity time, the chronos time, and quality time, or kairos time. And the key is that you have to take advantage of kairos, or quality time, at the moment it happens, or you lose it forever. And the only way that happens is if you give plenty of chronos, quantity time, to the greatest priorities, such as your families and things that will leave an eternal impact. So I pray this discussion will serve to simply underscore what we already know. We must be incredibly intentional with how we plan and spend our chronos time, that time that is governed by the clock and the calendar. To drive home the importance of planning and giving time to the ones we cherish the most, Christian author and counselor Gary Smalley once said, and I quote, "Life is relationships, and the rest is just details." And then to further showcase the value of how we spend our time, he shared this incredible story that I think will stick with us today. He said, and I quote, "A fresh morning breeze brushed my face. The music of birds and water splashing over stones in the nearby creek produced a sound of sheer delight. He said, I took a deep breath. I thought, It's so good to be alive. My hunting partner, Junior, and I spotted a wild turkey, and although I had been an avid hunter as a boy, he said I found myself fumbling with my gun. And I thought it was the excitement of my first turkey hunt, but as I took aim, an unfamiliar discomfort gripped me, and I was having trouble breathing. And as that trophy-sized turkey inched closer, I lowered my gun, and I couldn't understand why I had no strength. Something is wrong with me, I thought. And Junior, my son's raspy whisper, urged me, shoot, shoot. And again, I lifted my gun, I aimed, and I pulled the trigger. And at the same moment I shot the turkey, and the turkey fell, I crumbled to the ground. As I lay moaning on the ground, my son Junior reached down to help me to my feet. And Gary Smalley said I could feel something was wrong, and come to find out he was having a heart attack. He said, as Junior ran for the truck, I lay on the ground paralyzed with pain. Yet, he said, I'll never forget the peace that came over me. I was ready to go. He said, Lord, I'm ready to come home. However, at that moment, he said, I had one desire, and that was to see my wife and kids one more time. He said, and I quote, none of the books I'd written, none of the videos I'd made, or the conferences I'd spoken at, none of the couples I'd counseled, none of the awards that I had won, or any other accomplishments mattered in that moment. Because at that moment, he said, nothing else mattered but to say goodbye to my family. He was flown to a hospital about 50 miles from his home. He said that Greg, his oldest son, lived there and was the first to arrive at the hospital. He said, as they wheeled me into the emergency room, he said, my eyes locked onto Greg's eyes, and he thought I had made it. He said, I don't remember much of what happened next, but he recalled frantically trying to tell his son Greg what to say to each family member. He said, the more I tried to articulate my goodbyes, the more frustrated I became. And finally, Greg leaned over and he said something that instantly calmed me. He said, Dad, he whispered it ever so gently, we know. At that moment, he said, I realized my family already knew everything I wanted to tell them. They knew how proud I was of them, how valuable they were, and most important, they knew that they were loved. They would have never known, however, if time spent with them had not been my great priority. Today, take a few minutes and evaluate how you've been spending your time before COVID-19 and after COVID-19. Do you need to reprioritize some things? Consider Gary's story and ask yourself, does your family know? Are those that are most important to you, do they know, or have you taken them for granted? Are there some important plans that you've been pushing off and it's time to take it and possess it? I leave you with this. In the early 90s, a song entitled Believe was something that I listened to from a band that's known as now the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And in this song, the title of the song was Believe. There's a brief phrase that is among the most thought-provoking phrases I've ever heard or read. And the lyrics go, I wasted my time till time wasted me. Consider those lyrics, and then consider the immortal words of the Apostle James, and where he said, whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. Let me encourage you today. Don't let time waste you. Spend it wisely. God bless you.